Welcome to History with a Twist, the podcast where we dive deep into history's most fascinating figures and uncover the little known, hidden, or downright bizarre aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Hans, and today, in our very first episode, we are pulling back the curtain on the secret lives of famous historical figures. We all know the textbook versions of history's greats, their victories, their innovations, and their public personas. But behind closed doors, many of them led lives that would surprise you. Affairs, secret hobbies, strange obsessions. History is full of stories that never made it into the classroom. So, buckle up, because we are about to explore the untold side of some of history's most iconic figures. First, we're diving into the life of one of the most brilliant and mysterious figures in history, Leonardo da Vinci. We all know him as the mastermind behind Mona Lisa and The Last Supper, but did you know he had some rather unusual habits? Stick around, because this episode is going to change the way you think about this Renaissance genius. Now, let me ask you, have you ever started a project and never finished it? Maybe a painting, a book, or even a simple DIY home project. Well, guess what? You have something in common with Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci was known for leaving projects unfinished. Take Mona Lisa, for example. He carried it around for years, tweaking and adjusting the painting, but he never actually completed it. Sound familiar? Maybe you've got that half-painted wall or that guitar you swore you'd learn to play. Some believe his perfectionism made it impossible for him to declare anything truly finished. And it wasn't just paintings. His notebooks are packed with sketches of flying machines, war weapons, and futuristic inventions that were never built. His mind was always jumping from one idea to the next, making it hard for him to focus on a single task. Do you think this was a sign of genius, or just a creative mind that never wanted to stop exploring? And here's something even more fascinating: his writing style. Though Da Vinci was ambidextrous, he primarily used his left hand. But here's the kicker. He often wrote in mirror script, which meant that his words appeared backward and could only be read with a mirror. Why do you think he did this? Was he trying to keep his ideas secret? Or was it just a left-handed quirk to avoid smudging ink? Let us know your thoughts in the comments or in social media. Now, let's talk about something unexpected. His diet. Did you know Leonardo da Vinci was a vegetarian in an era where eating meat was the norm? He even bought caged birds just to set them free. This was unheard of during the Renaissance. Would you say this was ahead of his time, or just another way that Da Vinci was different? Leonardo da Vinci remains one of history's greatest enigmas. His perfectionism, creativity, and unique habits make him just as fascinating today as he was centuries ago. His unfinished projects weren't failures. They were proof of an insatiable curiosity that continues to inspire scientists, artists, and thinkers worldwide. Next, we're diving into the life of Winston Churchill, Britain's legendary wartime leader. He's known for his powerful speeches and steadfast leadership, but did you know he also had some of the most eccentric daily routines? From working late into the night, to napping in the afternoon, and even conducting meetings from his bathtub. Churchill's habits were anything but conventional. So, before we start, let me ask you, are you a night owl? Do you work best in the quiet hours of the night? If so, you might have something in common with Churchill. Maybe you do your best thinking when the world is asleep. Or perhaps you're one of those people who suddenly get a burst of creativity just before bedtime. If that sounds like you, then stay tuned because Churchill's routine just might inspire you. Unlike most world leaders who woke up early, Churchill's mind was most active between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Imagine him pacing around, writing speeches, analyzing military strategies, or even painting. Yes, painting. That was one of his favorite hobbies. He believed the stillness of the night allowed him to focus without distractions. While some might find this exhausting, Churchill actually thrived on it. Do you think you could handle such a schedule? Or do you need your solid 8 hours of sleep? Let us know in the comments. Now, working late into the night might sound like a recipe for burnout, right? Well, Churchill had the solution. He took long afternoon naps. Every single day he would dedicate 2 hours to rest, no matter how hectic his schedule was. He believed this practice doubled his productivity. In fact, he was so committed to his naps that he had a bed installed at the Houses of Parliament. Can you imagine your boss scheduling daily naps at work? That sounds amazing, doesn't it? And now, for the most unusual part, Churchill conducted meetings from his bathtub. Yes, you heard that right. While most leaders held meetings in formal offices, Churchill felt perfectly comfortable discussing serious military strategies while he is soaking in hot water. Picture that, a war leader in a bubble bath, dictating speeches and debating world affairs. It just goes to show that productivity can happen anywhere. What's the strangest place you've ever worked from? Send us your answers. We'd love to hear them. Churchill's daily routine may seem odd, but it played a key role in his leadership. His ability to work at night, recharge with naps, and conduct meetings from unexpected places all contributed to his effectiveness. His habits remind us that success doesn't come from following the norm. It comes from discovering what works best for you. We continue our journey into the life of one of the most influential scientists of all time, Marie Curie. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever been so passionate about something that you lost track of time? Maybe it's a project, a book, or even a science experiment. That's exactly how Marie Curie felt about her work. Science wasn't just her career. It was her entire world. And, as we'll see, her passion led to incredible discoveries, but it also came at a personal cost. Marie Curie was born in 1867 in Poland, a time when women had very few opportunities in science. But that didn't stop her. She moved to Paris, studied at the Sorbonne, and earned degrees in physics and mathematics. And here's a fun fact. Did you know she often studied by candlelight because she could not afford proper lighting? Talk about dedication. It was in Paris that she met Pierre Curie, her future husband and research partner. Together, they conducted groundbreaking experiments on radioactivity, a term that Marie herself coined. Their research led to the discovery of two new elements, polonium, named after her homeland, and radium, which emitted an eerie glow. Now, here's where things get interesting. Back then, scientists didn't yet understand the dangers of radiation. Marie often carried radioactive materials in her pockets and stored them in her desk. Can you imagine? She was fascinated by their glow, unaware that prolonged exposure would take a serious toll on her health. In fact, her original research papers are still so radioactive that they must be stored in lead-lined containers today. Pretty wild, right? But it wasn't all about science. Marie's life was also marked by tragedy. In 1906, her beloved husband Pierre was killed in a street accident. Imagine losing not just your partner in life, but also your partner in groundbreaking scientific discovery. Despite her grief, Marie didn't stop. She took over Pierre's research position and became the first female professor at the University of Paris. And then, in 1911, she won her second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry for isolating pure radium. That made her the first and only person to win Nobel Prizes in two different scientific fields. But, however, success came with its challenges. Marie became involved with physicist Paul Langevin, who happened to be married at the time. When the press found out, they ruthlessly attacked her. Some even called for her to leave France. Can you believe that? A scientist of her caliber being scrutinized for personal life instead of her achievements. Now let's pause for a moment. Have you ever felt like you had to work twice as hard just to be recognized? That's exactly what Marie Curie faced. But did she let the scandal define her? Absolutely not. Instead, she focused on her work, and during World War I, she turned her attention to helping soldiers on the battlefield. She developed mobile X-ray units. She nicknamed them Little Curies, which were used in field hospitals to diagnose injuries. These machines saved countless lives. Imagine being a wounded soldier and receiving a cutting-edge medical scan thanks to Curie's innovations. Even today, her contributions to science and medicine continue to impact the world. If you've ever had an X-ray or a cancer treatment using radiation therapy, you have Marie Curie to thank. Next, we're diving into the life of Benjamin Franklin, a founding father, an inventor, a diplomat, and, as you're about to learn, a man with some rather unusual habits. So, let me ask you, what's the strangest thing that you have done in your daily routine? Maybe it's a unique morning ritual, a quirky superstition, or an odd habit you swear by. Well, trust me, whatever it is, it's probably nothing compared to what Franklin did every morning. Let's start with one of Franklin's most peculiar habits. His air baths. Yes, you heard that right. Every morning, Franklin would sit completely naked in front of an open window for about an hour. Why? Because he believed exposure to fresh air was essential for good health. Now, imagine this. You're walking through Philadelphia in the 1700s. You glance up and there's Benjamin Franklin sitting by his window, completely unclothed, enjoying the breeze. A little awkward, right? But in Franklin's mind, this was his way of cleansing the body and refreshing the mind. While it might seem odd today, he was actually ahead of his time. We now know that fresh air and morning sunlight can have great health benefits. So, would you ever consider taking an air bath? Maybe just with a robe on. Think about that for a second. But Franklin's weird habits didn't stop here. He was also a master strategist when it came to diplomacy. And believe it or not, he used chess to gain the upper hand in negotiations. During discussions with a French diplomat, Franklin suggested that they play a game of chess before talking politics. Now, was this just for fun? Absolutely not. Franklin believed that playing chess would help ease tensions and provide an intellectual challenge that might just give him an advantage. Think about it. He turned a simple board game into a psychological tool. That's next level strategy. So, here's a question for you. Have you ever used a game or a fun activity to break the ice in a serious situation? Maybe a friendly debate before a big decision, or a casual game night before a tough conversation? If so, you're channeling your inner Franklin. Now, let's talk about Franklin's love for satire. Long before the internet, before social media, and before anonymous online comments, Franklin was already using fake names to steer public debate. He would submit satirical letters to newspapers under pseudonyms, using humor to critique colonial society. One of his most famous personas was, quote, "Silence do good," quote, a fictional widow whose letters humorously address various social issues. Readers had no idea that Silence was actually Benjamin Franklin. Can you imagine the reactions if people found out one of the most influential figures in American history was behind these letters? And here's a fun challenge. If you could create a pseudonym and write an anonymous opinion piece today, what would you write about? Would you use humor like Franklin did, or would you go for something more serious? Despite his quirks, Franklin was undeniably one of the greatest minds in history. His experiments with electricity changed science. His role in drafting the Declaration of Independence helped shape a nation, and his innovative thinking made him a legend. But what makes Franklin even more fascinating is his ability to embrace the unusual. Whether it was air bats, chess diplomacy, or satirical writing. So, what's the takeaway? Sometimes the key to greatness isn't just intelligence or hard work. It's curiosity, creativity, and the willingness to think differently. And there you have it, some of the most surprising, unusual, and secret aspects of history's most famous figures. If there's one takeaway from today's episode, it's this. History is more than just dates and events. It's a collection of stories, personalities, and quirks that make these figures feel more human. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to History with a Twist. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who's your favorite historical figure with a secret life? Let me know, and maybe we'll feature them in a future episode. Until next time, keep questioning history. Who knows what other surprises are waiting to be uncovered?